can a person reduce the stress of life that leads to fear, discontent and unhappiness? Thank you for listening to this audio recording of Steve Dickinson's approach to increasing success. If you run a business or consultancy and you sometimes find that you experience a degree of pressure to squeeze more and more results out of your time, then this is for you. This audio recording is about how to avoid the 3 mistakes that even smart business owners make that leave them tired, pressured and anxious about money.
Hi, Steve Dickinson here, creator of the Reality Management Coaching Process and author of Presenting Multiple Incomes. I'm going to tell you how easy it is to make those 3 mistakes, as well as what, in my experience, is the most effective and enjoyable way to avoid them. In addition, I'll explain how you can always know your next creative steps, and 3 psychological principles that, once understood, will improve the relationships you have with your customers, your friends, and your family. I have 3 objectives for this recording, and they are: 1. To give you the ability to examine any goal, required outcome or project from 9 different perspectives and increase massively the chances that you'll get what you want. 2. For you to be able to identify any obstacles to success, categorize them into 1 or more of 9 different areas and have strategies to overcome them. And 3, most importantly, to give you the opportunity to master your psychology so you can be more effective in all areas of your life and experience a happy enthusiasm most of the time. Before we start, I just want to say a few words about listening. One way to listen to what I'm about to say is to compare it with what you already know and decide, as you listen, if you agree or disagree with me. You can evaluate everything I say to make a decision about the usefulness or otherwise of the content of this recording. Now, I've done this in the past. Unfortunately for me, I would miss important and valuable information. This was because, as I spent time going through the evaluation process, I stopped listening. It turns out a person can understand more if they listen with nothing else on their mind. I know that this is easier said than done, but if you notice a thought when it pops into your head, recognize that it's your intellect trying to help you. However, if you introduce additional thoughts so you can make a decision, it's easy to become lost in thought and lose the thread of my narrative. If you want to write something down, you can always stop the recording or listen to it again and take your notes later. My suggestion is that you listen for a feeling. Let your mind absorb everything I have to say without giving it too much thought, because you'll know instinctively if this is for you. You might decide that you don't want to change and you have no need for this information. Alternatively, you might find it useful and implement it immediately to increase your efficiency, happiness and success. Lastly, you may realize that you wish to find out more about my approach. All of these options are fine with me. My commitment is to provide you with value, and that commitment is greater than my attachment to any specific outcome. Anyway, let's get started. As the title suggests, I believe that there are 3 mistakes that even smart business owners make that leave them tired, pressured, and anxious about money. I'll cover these one by one and explain how they can be avoided. Mistake number 1, I summarize with the word ambiguity, or the quality of being open to more than one interpretation. Inexactness. In a business, it could be described as being undirected or having a lack of clarity. Now, I know some people will say, oh, come on, this is just common sense. Decide on what you're going to do and do it. While the sentiment behind this paradigm is appealing, it's often not enough. Why else would companies spend so much time and money defining their mission statement? It's so customers and employees alike know exactly what the company does, because ambiguity leads to confusion and failure. A goal, a required outcome, or project deliverable, to use project management terminology, needs to be very well defined. An ambiguous description or an unnoticed lack of focus can lead people to making different assumptions. This will lead to confusion, wasted time, anxiousness, and possible confrontation, as one person does not do what somebody expects of them. Confusion costs money. Ambiguity creates stress, and in a recent study, 62% of people routinely find that they end the day with work-related neck pain, and 34% reported difficulty in sleeping because they were too stressed out. Now, an obvious and more personal example of a failed goal is a New Year's resolution. This is where someone spends some time thinking about a change in his or her life. Then they even discuss it with their friends and family. This makes it all the worse when they have to go through the embarrassment of explaining that they've given up on the idea. Now, whatever you do, you will get some kind of outcome. Setting a goal or working towards it makes it more likely that the outcome you get will be the one that you actually want. Working towards a successful outcome takes a little more than just stating what you want, though. However, it's a really good starting point. These 3 simple questions will serve you well in life. What do you want? How will you know when you have it? And what stops you? Whatever you really want, there's usually a way for you to create it. Now, many people find they end up spending so much time working on their business that other parts of their life suffer. So goal setting in all areas of your life can balance the time spent on work tasks with other important activities like socializing, family time, exercise, etc. Now, here is why I think SMART goals can be a bad idea. Now, I used to think I was quite smart to use that acronym when creating my goals. I thought it was a great way of analysing what I want. The SMART acronym stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, timely. Another meaning is specific, measurable, action-orientated, realistic, and tangible. The limitation with these methods of creating goals is the realistic or attainable aspect. They have an inbuilt constraint. Our belief as to what is realistic or attainable. Most of us are capable of so much more than we believe, but we're frightened of disappointment or failure, and we're not motivated to try and reach for an impossible dream. We might have thoughts about achieving something wonderful, something that we would really love to have. However, in addition, we might have possible conditions, constraints, consequences and presuppositions that would make it almost impossible to imagine actually reaching the outcome we desire. I always encourage my clients to continue talking after they've answered the question, what do you want? This is because there will usually be a but, so, because, and providing, assuming that, or something that is integral to achieving the goal. For instance, I want to be financially independent. Maybe their goal, but there will be more to it than that. I want to be financially independent, but I don't know where to start. I want to be financially independent, providing I don't have to work too hard. I want to be financially independent, and I won't be happy until I am. This last goal could be described as a pernicious or toxic goal. Why would you plan to start a journey on which you will be miserable until you reach your goal? The first step is to find a goal that really makes you come alive, and that makes you go, wow, that'd be amazing. Don't worry about old goals that you've grown out of or that have been overtaken by events. Forget about the I won't be happy until or I'll be happy when goals. Leave the I should because goals, as it turns out that the more reasons you have to justify wanting something, the less likelihood there is of you actually wanting it in the first place. It should be your goal, not something suggested by somebody else, unless you really want it. I mean, the anthropologist Gregory Bateman said, maturity is doing what you want, even if your parents want it too. The best goal is something that really excites you. It should be something that you will be happy to invest your time and energy into, even if you don't reach the goal. Ask yourself, if a miracle occurred, or if I could wave a magic wand and I achieved my goals immediately, what would I want? Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go and do it, because what the world needs are people who have come alive. Howard Thurman. Firstly, get a clear understanding of your current reality. and how you feel about it. In order to identify what you want for your future, you need to establish your current reality. Rate each area of your life on a subjective scale from 1 to 10, where 10 is amazing. Plot the results on some kind of graph. For instance, do an internet search on a coaching tool called The Wheel of Life. I've got one on my Pinterest page that you could use. It looks like a wheel with the spokes labelled with all the different areas of your life. This process will give you the information you need to prioritise the areas of your life which you want to improve first and establish the goals that are most important to you. These areas could be hobbies, contribution, friends, work and career, finances and money, physical and health, family, home environment, spiritual and ethical, social and cultural, mental and educational. The best way to predict the future is to create it yourself. So said writer, management consultant and self-described social ecologist Peter Drucker. And super coach Michael Neill adds to that. The best way to predict the future is to create it, and the best way to create it is to live it. Once you've decided on a goal, the required outcome for a project, answer the following questions. This will enable you to examine what you want and understand it in forensic detail. Spend some time on it and review it several times. You may want to stop this recording to give yourself time to answer the questions. Notice how you feel. If you feel uncomfortable at any point, review your thoughts on a specific question, leave it and go and do something else. In the unlikely event, after some time, that this does not happen, run through the questions and process again. So here are the 9 parts of a well-formed outcome. 1. What do you want? Is it positive? It must aim towards something. Losing weight, stop smoking, reducing stress, or getting out of debt are all negative. If it's negative, what do you want instead? What will it do for you? What do you want? 2. Evidence or feedback. What test will you use for success? How will you know you're on track? What are you going to measure? How will you know when you get there? What will you see? What will you hear? What will you feel? From where will you get it? What will you be doing when you get it? How will you know when you get it? How will your life change? 3. Specification. Where will it happen? When will it happen? With whom will it happen? If you can be really specific, you're much more likely to reach your goal. 4. Resources. Objects. What things will you need? People. Who will help you achieve your outcome? Role models. Who has the skills and attributes necessary to achieve the outcome? What qualities do you need to achieve this outcome? What evidence do you have that you could achieve this? And money. Do you have the required funds? And what would happen if you acted as if you had all the resources you need? 5. Control. Is the outcome for you or for other people? Can you start and maintain your journey towards the outcome? What can you do directly to achieve this outcome? How can you persuade other people to assist you in achieving it? Does it rely solely on you? Ecology. Does it fit in with you as a person? Within your, does it fit into the rest of your life? How much time and effort will this take? Who will be affected by your working towards this? Who will be affected by your reaching this goal? What will you give up to achieve this? Will you have to give up some of your time? Will you have to reprioritize your day? What is good about the situation? What will you lose if you get this goal? What will you gain? What will actually happen? What will happen if you reach the outcome? What will happen if you do not reach the outcome? Now these get a bit confusing, you might have to think about this. What will not happen if you do not reach the outcome? What will not happen if you do reach the outcome? What else could happen when you reach the outcome? to really decide, how does this fit into your life? Number 7, identity. Is your desired outcome in keeping with you as a person? Simple question, but it's worth giving it some thought. Number 8, fitting the outcomes together. What obstacles are there? And I'll talk about these later. What would prevent you from achieving your results? What would it get you? And how does this connect to your bigger goals? And lastly, an action plan. What is the first creative step? What should you do next? What action should you take? What should you delegate? To whom should you delegate it? And what should you do tomorrow? Now take the answers to these questions and make any changes to the original goal and write it out again, and include all the insights you got from answering these questions. The next step in creating your future is to imagine how your life might be after you've reached your goal. These next questions are based on a model called Neurological Levels, developed by Robert Dilts, an author, trainer and consultant. And it's a valuable tool for organising our thinking, information gathering and communication. These questions are designed to focus your attention on your environment, your behaviour, your skills and capabilities, your beliefs and values, your identity, and even your higher purpose. So first of all, environment. Once you've reached your goal, what will your environment be like? How might it have changed physically, socially, and emotionally? With whom might you be spending your time? What will you see? What will you hear? What will you feel? Behaviour. What will you be doing and how will you behave? How will you move, hold your body and breathe when talking with different people? Really visualise how your life will be and how you will behave once you reach your goal. Next, skills and capabilities. Will you have a new skill? How will they be relevant? And how will you apply them? So what will you have learnt in the process of getting that goal? What skills and capabilities that you will have in the future that you don't have now? Next, beliefs and values. What are your expectations about this situation? What will you believe to be true, untrue, possible or impossible? What things will you hold of value? It's our beliefs and values that drive us. If we believe something important because we value it, that's the thing that's going to motivate us. So once you reach this goal, what beliefs and values will you have? Next, identity. Who would you describe yourself as being going forward after reaching this goal? What will your identity be relative to those around you? And lastly, higher purpose. Why are you who you are? And why are you here in the future once you reach that goal? How can you be fulfilled? Is there more involved than the obvious? How will you contribute to your community after reaching this goal? From this process, you should be able to create a vivid mental representation of your future. See what you will see, hear what you will hear, the sound of your voice and the sound of the voices of the people around you. Feel what you will feel. Working backwards from what you want is the best way to know what you need to do now, tomorrow, or next week in order to achieve your goal. Now that you know what will happen after you reach your goals, you consider what you might be doing the day before, the week before, the month before, or the year before if appropriate. Use the same questions about environment, behaviour, skills and capability, beliefs and values, your identity and your higher purpose to create a map of your expected future experiences between now and reaching your goal. With the assumption that you're clear about why you want this goal, you can start to plan how you get it. Now, when planning, you can easily understand your progress and continuously assess whether it's the right thing for you or if you want to alter your approach. In my experience, nothing goes completely according to plan. I've always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. Dwight D. Eisenhower. So that's how to get over the mistake of ambiguity. Mistake number 2 is disorder. Now, some people have been offended by my saying this, so let me remove any ambiguity by defining exactly what I mean. I've often found that some businesses have areas within them that are without formal organisation or structure. This leads to people being unsure of their actions and often leads them to making the same mistakes in different ways again and again. Without any simple productivity routines, repeatable templates, processes and procedures, it's possible to waste huge amounts of time and money. This is especially the case with a consultant or business owner who's moved from the corporate world. They have to learn new skills as he or she becomes responsible for every aspect of a business. Time is the one resource that we have that cannot be increased. Spending too much time at work will adversely affect other aspects of our life. 20% of reported stress comes from the pressure of a person juggling the responsibilities of work and his or her personal life. I have a template to help people create a marketing message, a presentation, and obviously a marketing presentation. Go to my website and download my free ebook and watch the free videos if you'd like to find out more. However, right now I'll concentrate on a systematic way to get over the stress of being stopped. One way to increase your chances of success is to be very clear about what may stop you from achieving your goal. Supercoach Michael Neal suggests that it will fall into one or more of the following 9 areas. Information. You just don't have the information. Skill. You don't have the required skills to achieve your goal. Belief. You don't believe you can do it. Motivation. You just can't get started. Time. You don't have enough. Other people. There's always somebody demanding my time or telling me I can't do it. Other people stop me. Money. I just don't have the funds. Fear. I don't even want to think about it. And well-being. Those are the 9 areas. I'll give a brief description of each one with a route to getting past the obstacles. I will go into more detail about time because this is the only resource that is fixed. So first of all, information. If you don't have the information, look it up. Google it. Find some books to read. Read 3 books about a subject and you'll be more expert than most. It can be daunting, but the information is usually available if you look for it. Skill. Try and learn a skill and keep trying until you do it. The number of people that say to me, "Oh, I can't do presentations." I say, "Well, when was the last one you did?" "Oh, well, I was at school, I just can't do it." They haven't developed the skill because they've stopped trying. Now, if we did that as babies when we were first learning to walk, the first time we fell over, went, "Oh, no, not going to try that again." We've got to actually keep trying because there are 4 stages of learning. And I'll use riding a bike as a simple example. To begin with, when you see someone, well, at least me when I was a child, when I saw someone riding a bike, it looked quite easy. I didn't know how difficult it was. I was unconsciously incompetent. It's only when I got on the thing that I became conscious of how incompetent I was. But after a while, if I really concentrated, I could keep my balance. And eventually, I was able to do it without thinking. So I went from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence to conscious competence and finally to unconscious competence, where I can do it without thinking. So find someone else who has the skill and learn from them. Ask for their help or model what they do. The next one was belief. Beliefs. This might not seem quite as simple because beliefs may have been created many years before and reaffirmed many times by proof in the real world. Robert Anton Wilson suggests a metaphor that describes a person as having 2 parts, a thinker and a prover. The thinker develops a belief about life. It makes a decision about how things are and how it needs to keep itself safe. The prover has a much easier job. All it has to do is look around for proof that the belief is true, while completely ignoring the evidence to the contrary. This might be described by a psychiatrist as learned helplessness. The belief might have been created in childhood or in adulthood. Now I've heard it talked about three schools of learned helplessness. The first one is the elephant school. And this is where the analogy here is if you want to tie up a little baby elephant, you can put a stake in the ground, put a rope around its back leg. It'd pull it a while, but after a while it would just give up and think, okay, I'm tied to a stake. Of course, as that elephant grows up, it could easily break the rope or rip the stake out of the ground. But because, as a young elephant, it learnt that it was impossible, it doesn't bother trying. So the elephant school is things that we've learned as a child, things that we've been told by our parents, or things that didn't work for us as a child, we never try again. Another area of learned helplessness is what I've heard called the piranha school. And this is where someone did an experiment. I'm a bit fuzzy about who did it, so I won't try and remember. But they put piranhas in one side of a fish tank and separated by a piece of glass fish that the piranhas would eat. So the piranhas tried to get at the fish, their food, but they couldn't. They kept smashing themselves against the glass. So after a while, they stopped trying. Soon afterwards, the glass was taken out of the tank, and the fish could swim amongst each other. The piranhas didn't bother trying to attack their food because they'd learnt that it was impossible for them to get. So from our point of view, that would be, as an adult, we've learnt something, and we've learnt that it's impossible, so we don't bother trying. And the last school of learned helplessness is common knowledge. Everybody knows it's not possible, so it's not worth trying. So if you've got a belief that is getting in your way, that starts off, well, I can't because, well, try and work out what's the opposite of that. If you were to believe exactly the opposite, how would that affect you? If I knew that this was true, what would I do to create what I want? Now, belief is just a thought. It's something that you've created yourself. It doesn't have to hold you back. Another way is to use the coaching model of GROW. GROW. What is my goal? What is my current reality? What options do I have? And what's the way forwards? So that's how to remove a disempowering belief. The next one was motivation. Now, a lot of that can just be procrastination. You just can't get started. You get a little bit of inertia going. If you do actually start, then it's easier to carry on. A lot of times it's, I can't be bothered to get all this stuff together. It's going to take too much. I don't even want to think about it. But what you could do is just say, okay, I'm going to spend 15 minutes on this. Then I'm going to stop. And you just do a couple of 15-minute chunks, and pretty soon you'll be away. Alternatively, you might find that once you get to 15 minutes, you're so far into it, you just want to carry on. So you can start small by making little tiny changes. Or alternatively, you could do something big and completely redesign an area of your life. Say, okay, this day, all I'm going to do is that goal. In fact, I'm going to have a friend call me up in the morning so I can tell him what I'm going to do. Lunchtime so I can tell him what I've done, or her, what I've done, what I'm going to do. And so have some accountability. Focus in on what is working, and it'll just increase the possibilities available to you. Of course, sometimes with motivation, it comes down to the fact you've actually got the wrong goal. There's a desperation to it. I have to do this. Well, why do you have to? There's a rationalisation. I should. I've got lots of reasons. As I said earlier, the more reasons you've got to do something, the less chance there is that you actually want to do it. If you're really inspired, you're doing something because you want to. That's the best goal. So that's how to get motivation. Next is time. I used to feel overwhelmed by the number of tasks I had to do and all the ideas I had running around in my head. I found the best thing to do was to write them down onto a list. This reduced the mental energy I was wasting trying to remember everything. Writing down your goals and tasks is the first step to creating the outcomes you want. The next step is to find some time to do what you want to do. Mastering time management is essential to running a business, especially if you plan to have lots of free time. Time is the only resource you cannot get back once spent. And time management is not difficult if you stick to your plan and are realistic with how much you can get done within a certain time frame. I once went on a time management course and 3 people did not attend because they were too busy. The first thing you need is clarity. How do you decide on the most important tasks on which to work? Here are 3 methods of prioritizing activities. Number 1, there are 3 categories of results. A. Bad things happen if I don't do it. B. Good things happen if I do. C. That'd be nice. If you concentrate on the things that are going to have a negative effect if you don't do them. Once you've got those out of the way, concentrate on the things that will benefit you. And once you've got those out of the way, you can concentrate on the things that would be nice to happen. So that's the first option. The second one was made famous by Stephen R. Covey in his The 7 Habits of Successful People. And he suggests having 4 categories of tasks. Important and urgent tasks. These demand your attention. They've got to be done immediately because they're important and urgent. The next category is important but not urgent. Now this is the work zone where you can really stay focused. If you would tackle the tasks that are important before they get urgent, then you're doing really well. The third category, not important but urgent. This is a delusion, really. You don't have to answer your emails the second they hit your inbox. You don't have to answer the phone, or if you do, you don't have to spend half an hour talking to somebody. You could say, look, sorry, I'm a little bit busy at the moment. Can I arrange to call you back? And lastly, the non-important and non-urgent things. The distractions. Getting distracted on YouTube, constantly going to check your Facebook updates. Get on with something useful. The idea here is to work on tasks while they are important but not urgent, rather than waiting until they're both. And remember, rest and leisure are important. The third time management process, the one I like best, is Pareto, the 80-20 rule. The Pareto rule states that 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes. 80% of your income will come from 20% of your customers. 80% of your problems will come from a different 20% of your customers. 20% of your activities will be more important than the rest. So divide the number of items that you have on your to-do list by 5. This will give you the number of important tasks on which you should work, 20% of your tasks. Grade your tasks by order of importance and work on that important 20%. Bear in mind that it may be better to delegate some of the tasks, so allow some time for your delegation planning. Having a structure is the framework for success. No sportsman gains success by breaking the rules. How many successful sportsmen do you know that break the rules? Stick to the rules that you set. Plan your work and then work your plan. You can use external reminders, alarms on your phone, Microsoft Outlook, etc., or personal routines. For instance, have a default diary. Now, default diary contains time that is set aside for regular tasks, things that you do every day. Set aside some time at the end of each day to plan the tasks you're going to do the next day. Include recreation time and time to communicate with your family and the wider community. And be bold. Imagine, if I were to be paid £100 million to do this, could I get it done? Well, if the answer is yes, then you can get it done. Focus your attention on a task by saying to yourself, the only task I have to do is... And just focus totally on that one. Because if you're constantly thinking about the next task, it's like playing golf. Chris Evans pointed this out. If a person's playing golf and they're thinking about the last shot or planning for the next shot, they're not going to be giving their full attention to the shot that they're trying to make, and they won't be as effective. In the well-formed outcomes or goals sections, I suggested that you create a vivid mental representation of your future and work backwards until you know what you'll be doing in order to reach your desired outcome. This is your starting point for writing down your monthly planning steps. Create a default diary of your ideal week. Write down all your regular tasks. Writing your blog, writing your book, recording a video, sales calls, marketing, banking, meetings with staff. Whatever it is that you're going to be doing on a regular basis. Remember to leave time between tasks to cater for interruptions and phone calls. I know I was surprised at the number of interruptions, phone calls answering email and silly distractions, watching YouTube, on which I spent so much of my time. So your monthly planning steps. Block out a couple of hours at the end of each month and plan the upcoming month. Write down your most important goals in all areas of your life. Prioritize your most important activities. Answer the well-formed outcome questions for each of your goals for the next month. Schedule blocks of time to work on goal-related tasks, and this should include some high payoff activities. It's always tempting to do the tasks that are easy so you've got time to do the big tasks. It's not always the best thing to do. Inform people who need to know of your diarised commitments. This could be publishing them on Outlook or a cloud diary, or just letting people know when you're going to be busy and shouldn't be disturbed. Include time for tracking the progress of your goals and make sure that you're on track. Schedule some planning time at the end of each week to review, modify and augment the tasks planned for the following week. Then your daily planning steps. Take 10 minutes or so at the end of each day to plan what you're going to do the next day. Some of this will come from your default diary or your monthly planning steps. Once completed, this is your cue to let your thoughts go and pass over the planning to your unconscious mind. Take 10 minutes at the beginning of each day and review the plan you created the day before. This review will give you the benefits of the insights you will probably have gained during the night. So prioritize your important tasks. Review any conversations you need to have with people before phoning them or meeting them. This stops the need for repetitive calls. Finish each day by documenting the day's accomplishments and track your progress. Then plan for the next day. Once in a while, review the efficiency of your planning by keeping a time log of your activities, what you do minute by minute, and compare what you actually do with what you plan to do. If there's a considerable discrepancy, you need to improve your planning or be more disciplined at sticking to your plan. If you completed or actioned 80% of your plan each day, you'll have done quite well, because nothing goes according to plan. The Apollo 11 command module that took Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins to the moon in 1969 was only on course for 3% of the time. The other 97% of the time was spent off course or making course adjustments. Just because things are not going to plan does not negate the fact that you can create amazing results. Mastering your own time is one of the most important aspects of success. So what else might stop you? Other people. It can be a bit daunting sometimes when people tell you that you can't achieve something or they can't help you. So get used to saying no. It's not about you, and it's not useful for you to try and get them to agree with you. You don't want to be dependent on somebody. You don't want a codependent relationship. You want to be independent. You can listen, laugh, argue, but the last thing you want is silence where there's certain things that can't be discussed. Once one person steps out of a confrontation or out of an argument, there is no more argument. The difficulty with when other people stop you is attempting to gain control or taking the other person's actions personally. Is it in your control? If it isn't, let it go. Just get a connection with them. Let go of your agenda. Make building a relationship the most important thing. Do what you need to do to make the relationship wonderful. Now, of course, lack of money stops people a lot of the time. But the great thing is, you have an abundance of value. You can work out what you're good at, what you know, how much money do you have, and what do you own or have access to that is valuable. Financial security doesn't come from having money. It comes from your belief that you can create money whenever you need it. Now, one of the next things that will stop someone is fear. We were born with two genetic fears, the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. And that's why you can get a little baby or a toddler to giggle by throwing them up in the air, because they just have an inbuilt fear, which because they know instinctively they know they're safe, it just makes them giggle. This is why adults or teenagers in particular enjoy fairground rides. very often what would happen to sort of program us and to associate a particular environment with that feeling of fear is a parent shouting at us if we're about to do something dangerous. So by raising their voice, they can basically trigger the freeze, flight or fight system. And although that's really useful for stopping a child from doing something dangerous because they just freeze, or they go running to their mum, or their father, or whoever the caretaker is, it also associates that feeling that a child just doesn't want to feel. That change in their body chemistry can be so overwhelming that they just want to avoid it at all costs. So the whole point of fear is, I'm feeling uncomfortable, I need to move myself to a different environment away from danger. But it's intelligence that keeps us safe. It's good decisions. It's proper evaluation. If we're feeling frightened, we can think, well, what's the worst that could happen? Well, what's the best that could happen? And what's most likely to happen out of those two? Well, it's not going to be either, is it really? And there's a difference between fear and anxiety. Now, if a tiger were to walk into the room while I was recording this, fear would be a really good response. My body chemistry would change to give me that ability to just freeze to the spot, to run or climb or do whatever it is I needed to get away from it, or the worst comes to the worst, fight it. Not a great idea with a tiger. So that's fear. That's a great neurophysiological response for dealing with a dangerous situation. But if I was to sit here in my office, constantly worried that there might be a tiger behind me, well, that's not helping anybody. I'm just constantly going to be anxious. And that's the difference. If you can notice the difference between fear, which is a response to a real-life threat, and anxiousness, which is a feeling that's been created by your own thinking. If you ask yourself, what should I do? You're not scared. It's not fear. I mean, someone once asked me what I'd do with my kung fu if I was to step out into a riot. I mean, it's been nearly 3 years, well, maybe 2.5 years since the riots in London and other areas in England, and I said, well, it wouldn't be my conscious decision. If I were to step out into a riot, look around and think, oh, this looks dangerous, I wonder what my options are. Oh, and if I choose that option, I wonder what the ramifications may be. It'll be too late. I just need to react. I don't need to use my cognitive function to really analyse the situation. Without me thinking about it, just by my senses absorbing this information, it wouldn't go to, although intellectually I might go, this looks frightening. Unconsciously, my body would instantly be preparing myself. My heart rate would go up. My breathing would go up. My blood flow would change slightly in case I cut myself and wouldn't bleed so much. And also it would focus the oxygenated blood into my muscles so I could do something about it. Perfect neurophysiological response for stepping out into a riot. But also I'd have that reduced cognitive function, because I don't need to think about it. I don't need to try and plan. I just need to react. So fear makes you stupid. Now that's perfect if I was stepping out into a riot. But if I get those same feelings when I'm about to do a presentation to 200 people, the last thing I want is reduced cognitive function. So recognizing that those feelings you've got are created by your thinking makes things a lot easier. Now, a lot of people will have a fear of rejection. Now, that's a survival-based fear. Historically, if all eyes were on you, you were either the chief that was going to get challenged, or you were the runt that was going to get thrown out. So having lots of eyes on you is not necessarily comfortable. But you can get used to it. Because when we were babies, we didn't have that problem. We could be totally self-expressed, and we didn't care who was watching. So it's not so much fear, it's more likely to be anxiety. Now, I like the analogy of someone spinning a tiger around their head. They spent all day spinning a tiger around their head. Someone said, what are you doing? He said, I'm spinning a tiger. Why are you spinning the tiger? Well, to keep the lions away. but there aren't any lines here. See, it's working. Just continually doing the same thing, consciously trying to protect yourself from a danger that isn't actually there. It's created by your own thinking. So if you are feeling fearful or more likely anxious about something, have a backup plan. Don't just run a catastrophic situation again and again around in some kind of massive disaster loop, constantly worrying at the same thought. Now, when you worry about something, whether it's worry beads, or the corner of your nail, or at your hair, what you're doing is going back and constantly worrying at it, constantly playing with it. And that's what worrying is about. If you are constantly worrying, you are worrying at the same thought. Notice that it's a thought. Recognize that your intellect is trying to help you. But if you're getting a feeling that is unhelpful, that's reducing your cognitive function, reducing your ability to think, then it maybe it's time to let go of that thought. Go off and do something else. Distract yourself. Let your unconscious mind help you. Now, lastly, out of the 9, because we've been through information, don't have the information, don't have the skill, I don't believe I can do it, I'm not motivated enough, I don't have the time, other people are stopping me, I don't have enough money, I'm frightened. It's well-being. If you don't feel well enough in yourself, it's very difficult to get started. If you don't feel well enough in yourself, actually starting on your route to your goal is going to be very difficult for the other 8 reasons I've just discussed. One of the most important things about well-being is being able to say no to what you don't want to do. I mean, it could be that in the great scheme of things it is the right thing to do, and you've just got to get yourself motivated, or there's some reason for stopping, whatever it is, whatever the reason is that's stopping you. But you've got to get used to hearing the word no and accepting that it's not about you. You've got to be able to have the ability to say no. Go to your heart. Pause. Take some time out. Center yourself. Slow down. If you want to be successful, the best thing to do is to work on your own well-being. And if you are comfortable within your own skin, you'll develop a charisma that people are drawn to. So those are the 9 things that might stop you. Okay, so we've discussed ambiguity and lack of clarity, and disorder and lack of structure, and lack of understanding the things that can stop you. Finally, the third mistake people make is a misunderstanding of how we experience reality. It could be described as having 2 parts. Firstly, attributing our good feelings to our circumstances. Thinking that we're feeling good because of how much money we have, the job we have, the partner we have, or looking forward to feeling good because of what we will have in the future. The second part is to blame our circumstances for the bad feelings we experience. The fact that we do not have enough money, that we have a bad job, don't have a partner, or argue with our partner. With this misunderstanding, a person may just accept unhappiness and stress as an unavoidable aspect of life. Alternatively, they may try to continue to change their circumstances so they can feel better, earn more money, or spend money they don't have, or go from dream job to dream job, constantly being let down by the company or the industry. They may try to change people, change them into who they want them to be, with nagging and criticism. Anyone who is not in physical danger and who experiences the feelings of the freeze, flight or fight system operating within them is experiencing this misunderstanding. Stress hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol are produced in the body to help us run or fight. We notice our heart rate and blood pressure increase as we get ready for the muscles requiring more oxygen. Another aspect of this natural protection system is to reduce cognitive function. Now, I mentioned this before. To reduce our ability to use our intellect. To reduce our ability to think. In dangerous situations, we don't need to think, we just need to react. It's a perfect neurophysiological response for a dangerous situation. However, standing there shaking, going red in the face with an inability to think is something I've experienced in the past and I've seen all too often in my colleagues. I've seen this kind of stress lead to someone crying in a meeting or somebody else shouting and pointing across a boardroom table. Stress plus quality recovery time is a great way to grow. I mean, just look at bodybuilders. But too much stress will lead to health and relationship problems. 80% of workers feel stress on the job. Nearly half say that they need help learning how to manage stress, and 42% say their co-workers need such help. Occupational pressures are believed to be responsible for 30% of workers suffering from back pain, 28% complaining of stress, 20% feeling fatigued, and 13% with headaches. Job stress is costly. Job stress carries a price tag for the US industry estimated at over $300 billion annually as a result of accidents, absenteeism, employee turnover, diminished productivity, direct medical, legal and insurance costs. Now, I know a lot of independent business owners and consultants who are in their new role because of experiencing too much stress in the past. So they naturally now avoid stressful situations when they can, and are consequently not earning to their full potential. So they work harder and worry about money. The good news is that it can be avoided with an understanding of the building blocks of the human experience. Just by understanding the three principles from which we create our reality, we can have an underlying serenity, confidence, and well-being. I say create our reality because everyone has a different experience of life. For instance, I love to listen to music. I love most styles of music, especially when musicians are playing it live. However, I know that some people actively dislike some of the music that I enjoy. They will not stop complaining about it until I switch it off. This is an example of two people sharing the same circumstances, but having a completely different experience from one another. Also, given a certain mood, there are some styles of music that I prefer to listen to than other styles. This is an example of how my mood affects my experience. I create a different experience by responding differently to the same stimuli. I'm consciously aware of different thoughts and feelings within my mind and body from time to time. My mood is never constant, and it goes up and down, and what I enjoy changes with my mood. Now, before I tell you about these three principles, I think it's worth defining what I mean by a principle and how it differs from a belief. A principle is something that exists whether you believe it or not. The principle of gravity, for instance. If gravity was a belief and you stepped off a cliff, you'd not fall until you noticed you were walking on air, just like a cartoon character. We spent a lot of time learning about the principle of gravity during our first few years of life. After some practice, we learned how to walk, to sway our mass from side to side and coordinate our legs and feet with this swaying to transfer our weight from one foot to the other. With an embodied understanding of this principle, a person can walk, run, lift, throw, ride a bike, and a lot more. An understanding of a principle makes life easier. Fighting against the principle is a recipe for failure. Here we go then. The three principles from which every person creates their experience of life are the principles of mind, thought, and consciousness. Consciousness is our ability to be aware of our sensory information, like a cinema screen that could be small one moment and huge the next. We could be very focused on a small aspect of our environment one moment, watching TV for instance, and then suddenly aware of a wider reality when someone starts talking to you who's walked into the room without you noticing. Also, we are conscious of the feelings in our bodies, like our stomach turning over as we have an anxious thought. Thought is the content of our life, the creative force behind the infinite variety of life, like a film in the projector at a cinema. And when I use the word thought, I'm referring to conscious and unconscious thought, as well as the unconscious processes that your mind is running, like adjusting your heart rate, adrenaline levels, and your cognitive function. As I said, sometimes in a dangerous situation, you don't need to think, you just need to react instantly. Overthinking things would just get in the way. In other seemingly stressful situations, the last thing you need is reduced cognitive function. Your unconscious thoughts controls the balance of your body chemistry, and therefore your ability to be self-expressed and creative. Your unconscious thoughts guide your conscious thoughts so that you can focus on what is the most important thing for your survival. Mind is the energy and intelligence behind life, like the light bulb in a projector. We all know there's something more to life that we don't fully understand. Without our life energy, we'd not be alive. Without the bioelectrical energy in our brain and our body, we would not exist as a person. Without thought, we would have no meaning in our life. Without consciousness, we would be aware of nothing. This is one of the most powerful understandings you can have. Why? Because you now know where your feelings come from. Your feelings do not come from the outside in. They come from your own unconscious thoughts, or conscious and unconscious thoughts, from inside you. Recognize that it is thought that creates your feelings, and the bad feelings dissolve. So the only thing you need to do to have the best experience available to you is to hold this understanding in mind all the time, especially when you have a bad feeling. If there's a physical threat to your safety, fear would be a great reaction. But if there's no threat and you're just feeling anxious, then your body is sending you a message. Your body is telling you that your thinking is getting in the way of your happiness. For instance, you may think you're absolutely right about something, but that usually means somebody else is wrong. If you were in a calmer mood, would being right be so important? I'm sure you can think of an example when someone said something in the heat of the moment that they later regret having said once they've calmed down. With any difficulty a person experiences, thinking about it does not usually produce the best results. However, letting go of those thoughts and gaining some clarity usually produces better results. But even if it doesn't, with calmness and clarity, the situation will not seem so bad anyway. The last thing you want to do is take any notice of yourself when you're worried. That's a quote from Dr. Aaron Turner. The one thing I want you to take away from this section is you are always living in the feelings of your thinking. This may seem just too simple, but it's a powerful understanding that will serve you well. The more you notice that your feelings are driven by your thoughts and not your circumstances, the easier life becomes. Because happiness is only one thought away. I've barely scratched the surface of what is possible for you with a deep understanding of the inside-out nature of reality. It can help you create astonishing levels of well-being. Appreciating the three principles can help you create amazing relationships with your customers, friends, and loved ones. The trick to creating an abundance of well-being in yourself and in the people around you is to have a small percentage of your mind aware of the three principles as you use them. This is often impossible without some kind of training or coaching, so I urge you to deepen your knowledge about the three principles. I have some Pinterest boards dedicated to suitable books and free videos from other three principles facilitators. If you have any questions, I'd be delighted if you were to contact me. Also, I'd be happy to talk to you in groups if required. I've told you how easy it is to make the three mistakes that I mentioned: ambiguity, disorder, and a misunderstanding about the nature of thought, as well as what, in my experience, is the most effective and enjoyable way to set your goals. In addition, I've explained how to always know your next creative steps and the three psychological principles that, once understood, will improve the relationships you have with your customers, your friends, and your family. I hope I've met the three objectives I had for this recording, which were: 1, to give you the ability to examine any goal, required outcome, or project from 9 different perspectives and increase massively the chances that you'll get what you want. 2, for you to be able to identify any obstacles to success and categorize them into one or more of 9 different areas and have strategies to overcome them. And most importantly, number 3, to give you the opportunity to master your psychology so you can be more effective in all areas of your life and experience a happy enthusiasm most of the time. Thanks very much for listening to this audio recording, and I'll leave you with a quote from the chairman of Google, Eric Schmidt, while he was still the chief executive officer. What is the best advice I ever had? Get a coach. Everyone needs a coach.
If you would like to find out how to create productivity without pressure, go to www.stevedickinson.co.uk and take advantage of the free downloads and free training videos. If you know someone who experiences seemingly unavoidable stress, works more hours than they would like, and are not earning to their full potential, then you should know that gaining control over our state of mind is the key to creating an immediate experience of success. If you want multiple incomes, powerful presentation skills, increased performance, confidence, happiness, self-esteem, decreased levels of stress, a desirable work-life balance, self-reliance, motivation, and a secure belief in the ability to create success in every area of life, go to www.stevedickinson.co.uk.